Chapter 9. It was very quiet. The dogs leaned down to eat the hailstones. Seal stepped around them and leaped up on the fence to groom herself. A tree had blown over near the cow pond, and the wild roses were scattered on the ground as if a wedding had come and gone there. "I'm glad I saved an armful," was all that Sara said. Only one field was badly damaged, and Sara and Papa hitched up the horses and plowed and replanted during the next 2 days. The roof had held. "I told you I know about roofs," Sara told Papa, making him smile. Papa kept his promise to Sara. When the work was done, he took her out into the fields, Papa riding Jack, who was sly, and Sara riding Old Bess. Sara was quick to learn. "Too quick," Caleb complained to me as we watched from the fence. He thought a moment. "Maybe she'll fall off and have to stay here." "Why?" he asked, turning to me. "Why does she have to go away alone?" "Hush up, Caleb," I said crossly. "Hush up." "I could get sick and make her stay here," said Caleb. "No." "We could tie her up." "No." And Caleb began to cry, and I took him inside the barn where we could both cry. Papa and Sara came to hitch the horses to the wagon so Sara could practice driving. Papa didn't see Caleb's tears, and he sent him with an axe to begin chopping up the tree by the pond for firewood. I stood and watched Sara, the reins in her hands, Papa next to her in the wagon. I could see Caleb standing by the pond, one hand shading his eyes, watching too. I went into the safe darkness of the barn then, Sara's chickens scuttling along behind me. "Why?" I asked out loud, echoing Caleb's question. The chickens watched me, their eyes small and bright. The next morning, Sara got up early and put on her blue dress. She took apples to the barn. She loaded a bundle of hay on the wagon for Old Bess and Jack. She put on her yellow bonnet. "Remember Jack," said Papa. "A strong hand." "Yes, Jacob." "Best to be home before dark," said Papa. "Driving a wagon is hard if there's no full moon." "Yes, Jacob." Sara kissed us all, even my father, who looked surprised. "Take care of Seal," she said to Caleb and me. And with a whisper to Old Bess and a stern word to Jack, Sara climbed up in the wagon and drove away. "Very good," murmured Papa as he watched. And after a while he turned and went out into the fields. Caleb and I watched Sara from the porch. Caleb took my hand and the dogs lay down beside us. It was sunny, and I remembered another time when a wagon had taken Mama away. It had been a day just like this day, and Mama had never come back. Seal jumped up to the porch, her feet making a small thump. Caleb leaned down and picked her up and walked inside. I took the broom and slowly swept the porch. Then I watered Sara's plants. Caleb cleaned out the wood stove and carried the ashes to the barn, spilling them so that I had to sweep the porch again. "I am loud and pesky," Caleb cried suddenly. "You said so, and she has gone to buy a train ticket to go away." "No, Caleb, she would tell us." "The house is too small," said Caleb. "That's what it is." "The house is not too small," I said. I looked at Sara's drawing of the fields pinned up on the wall next to the window. "What is missing?" I asked Caleb. "You said you knew what was missing." "Colors," said Caleb wearily. "The colors of the sea." Outside, clouds moved into the sky and went away again. We took lunch to Papa, cheese and bread and lemonade. Caleb nudged me. "Ask him. Ask Papa." "What has Sara gone to do?" I asked. "I don't know," said Papa. He squinted at me. Then he sighed and put one hand on Caleb's head, one on mine. "Sara's Sara. She does things her way, you know." "I know," said Caleb very softly. Papa picked up his shovel and put on his hat. "Ask if she's coming back," whispered Caleb. "Of course she's coming back," I said. "Seal is here." But I would not ask the question. I was afraid to hear the answer. We fed the sheep, and I set the table for dinner. 4 plates. The sun dropped low over the west fields. Lottie and Nick stood at the door, wagging their tails, asking for supper. Papa came to light the stove, and then it was dusk. Soon it would be dark. Caleb sat on the porch steps, turning his moon snail shell over and over in his hand. Seal brushed back and forth against him. Suddenly, Lottie began to bark, and Nick jumped off the porch and ran down the road. "Dust!" cried Caleb. He climbed the porch and stood on the roof. "Dust in a yellow bonnet!" Slowly the wagon came around the windmill and the barn in the windbreak and into the yard, the dogs jumping happily beside it. "Hush, dogs!" said Sara, and Nick leaped up into the wagon to sit by Sara. Papa took the reins and Sara climbed down from the wagon. Caleb burst into tears. "Seal was very worried," he cried. Sara put her arms around him and he wailed into her dress. "And the house is too small, we thought, and I am loud and pesky." Sara looked at Papa and me over Caleb's head. "We thought you might be thinking of leaving us," I told her, "because you miss the sea." Sara smiled. "No," she said, "I will always miss my old home, but the truth of it is, I would miss you more." Papa smiled at Sara, then he bent quickly to unhitch the horses from the wagon. He led them to the barn for water. Sara handed me a package. "For Anna," she said, "and Caleb. For all of us." The package was small, wrapped in brown paper with a rubber band around it. Very carefully I unwrapped it, Caleb peering closely. Inside were 3 colored pencils. "Blue," said Caleb slowly, "and gray, and green." Sara nodded. Suddenly Caleb grinned. "Papa," he called, "Papa, come quickly, Sara has brought the sea." We eat our night meal by candlelight, the 4 of us. Sara has brought candles from town, and nasturtium seeds for her garden, and a book of songs to teach us. It is late, and Caleb is nearly sleeping by his plate, and Sara is smiling at my father. Soon there will be a wedding. Papa says that when the preacher asks if he will have Sara for his wife, he will answer, "Yep." Autumn will come, then winter, cold with a wind that blows like the wind off the sea in Maine. There will be nests of curls to look for, and dried flowers all winter long. When there are storms, Papa will stretch a rope from the door to the barn so we will not be lost when we feed the sheep and the cows, and Jack and old Bess. And Sara's chickens, if they aren't living in the house. There will be Sara's sea, blue and gray and green, hanging on the wall. And songs, old ones and new. And Seal with yellow eyes. And there will be Sara, plain and tall.